What's happening, everybody? It's your man, Dame DNYDC. Two mics up. Monday. You know what we do on Monday nights. Brand new episode. And I have an amazing guest that's joining me on the other mic tonight. Because, a lot of times we in the black and brown community, we think we know finances. Most of us don't understand finances. And tonight, I'm really looking forward to tonight's guest because she specializes, if you will, in finances, coaching, and things of that nature. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'm going to bring to the other mic Miss Sandra Bates. Sandra, how are you doing today? I mean, looking good in that pink, looking fresh.
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Good. Well, we've met. We had the pleasure of meeting in at the expo last year, and we've kind of been following each other along, social media, and finally had the opportunity to really connect and have you here, with us and our audience tonight. And before we really dive into all of the amazing education that you're about to provide to our listeners, I always like to ask, like, who is Sandra Bates, the person?
Well, the person, I come from a very small town in Little LA. I'm sure you know exactly where that is. Louisiana. That's where we cook the best gumbo.
Okay.
And I grew up around some very older people, I have to admit. My family I'm from a very older family. My father was really, really old. Everybody thought it was my grandfather. So wow. I was raised with a different type of background. Me and my sisters, two of us. And I started banking in my junior year in high school. So I've been counting someone else's money since that time. So It's been fun. I'm still counting someone else's money and at the same time trying to educate others how to count their own money. So after I had an opportunity to leave Louisiana and I went to Georgia, started working in another bank. I grew up in Georgia, in Atlanta. I grew up spiritually and emotionally, mentally, all in Atlanta, 20 years there. And I wish, my husband's not listening, but I wish I can go back. He's not going to allow that. But I call Atlanta home. Mm-hmm. So after being there, I had an opportunity to grow. I had an opportunity to expand my knowledge. I was offered an opportunity to move to Maryland, working for another credit union. And I jumped at it. My mother had been ill back in 99. Wow. And I decided, my sister and I decided we would never put her in a nursing home. So my sister did the heavy lifting and I was taking the responsibility to make the money. So when the opportunity presented itself, I moved to Maryland and my mother went back home with my sister. And that started this last 16 years of my life where I went from Maryland, opened a branch in South Carolina and came to Virginia Beach. Mm-hmm. I met my husband at my grand opening in South Carolina and I guess the rest is history because now I'm in Virginia Beach. So this is where I'm going to stay. And it's been a ride. It's been a good ride, but I've met a lot of wonderful people and learned a whole lot.
Well, speaking of wonderful, you are a wonderful person. I had the pleasure of meeting you and your husband. You both are tremendous individuals. And I'm proud and honored to have you here today. And talking about your ride, talking about how you've been handling other people's money, You talk about, your junior or senior year in high school, where you got started. But I'm curious to know, was that always an interest of yours? Was that something that, you always wanted to do? Or was it happenstance? Like, how did that fire kick off for you?
So if I have to be honest, in my junior year in high school, there was a program called GCE. And that was where they placed students in certain positions. And at that time, and I hope I don't offend anyone who's listening, but at that time, African Americans were being put in fast foods and everybody else was being put in different positions. And I refused to do fast food. I was going to get out of the program. And she was like, Sandra, hold up. Before you do that, let me see if I can find you someplace. Right. And that's how I got my first opportunity to work in a financial institution.
Wow. I mean, in times of change, I like to say that you and I may be a little more seasoned,
Mhm.
but times have changed, and it's just amazing though. Like when you talk to some people, or if someone hears this story, they don't really think that those things happened, right? Because you and I are still here in the physical, but it wasn't that long ago. But through your journey though, like how have things changed in your industry for black and brown people since you started? Have you seen more doors open, or is it still a very difficult road for us to navigate and get into?
I'm going to be honest with myself right now, which means I'm going to be honest with you. It's still hard.
Mm,
I've had some wonderful bosses. They opened doors for me, and I really do appreciate that. But where I am right now, I'm looking back at the people who's behind me, and it's not the same.
mm,
It's not the same. You don't see us helping us, if
mm,
I must say.
mhm.
My goal has been, since I've had this opportunity, especially in the last 16 years, to be able to show others.
Yeah.
And I mean, it wasn't perfect for me,
Right.
but it was great. And I've always wanted to help those behind me. However,
Mm-hmm.
there are some of us who don't see the same thing.
Right. That's so true.
And it's not about helping those behind us, but let me get what I can get right now.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
it's sad because it's right here.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're in denial, but
Mm.
it's real.
That's real talk. That's real talk right there. I do get the denial.
Mm.
We don't support and help each other. You say you will, but you really don't. You have no intention to, and that's a whole nother conversation. But
It is.
it's a whole nother. We can go down a whole nother rabbit hole.
We
Uh,
can, but
but
it's happening, and we can't ignore it.
yeah,
But I've kind of gotten to the point in my life where I'm like, okay, no matter how hard I try, it takes more than one person.
it does. It takes a collective. It
Yeah,
takes a true collective, a committed collective. So I
yeah.
totally get that. And speaking of which, though, when we talk about our community, the black and brown community, um, as a financial coach, if you will,
Mhm.
um, I I'm going to I hate to use the word assume, but I'm going to have to imagine that we find ourselves in more debt than our counterparts. Um, but I'm curious to know if I or someone who watching were to come to you, and really become a client. Like
Mhm.
what does your process look like? When you're sitting down with a new client and really trying to, I guess, establish a portfolio or goals, if you will, along the path. Like, what does that look like for you in a one-on-one?
Well, we have to. Everybody is different. That's first and
Mm-hmm.
foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's situation is totally different.
Mm-hmm.
So my goal is to first let's sit down and let's talk.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get to know each other a little bit better. I need to find out. I would like to find out rather, a little bit about you, your family. How did your family manage money? Because some of those things kind of carry over. If you weren't taught,
Mm,
you're going to do what you know, right? I mean,
right.
you're going to pick up and just apply for this credit card as soon as you start college. You're going to apply for
Mm-hmm.
the credit card. If you don't know better, then you're going to have the same habits. So my goal is to sit down with you and get to know who you are. And then we're going to talk about goals.
Mm,
What is it that you would like to accomplish?
okay.
Once we do that, let's talk about, what's happening in your life right now. How much debt do you have? How much money you're making? Like, are you able to work more than one job?
Mm,
Sell some things in the house? It just really depends on where you are and what your goals are. And that's the route I'll take. And my goal is always to be with you throughout that full step of the way. I'll
mm,
be with you. I'm there to answer questions. Reach out to me via text. You can call, email. I want to be there. If you have an urge where you want to go buy this new, I don't know, iPhone or any new toy,
right.
and you're struggling, call me. Let's talk about it. Because
Mm,
depending on where you are, maybe I could say, well, we've been doing good so far. Or then I might just go, well, you know what? I also have to remind my clients, I'm just your coach.
right.
You're going to make the ultimate decision. I'm
Right.
here to go, I wouldn't do it if I was you. But if that's what you truly want to do, I'm not the one to tell you no. You have
Right.
to want to make the change.
I like that. I like, I like that because it's really You're so true. It's centralized to the person.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how you started with the habits.
Mm-hmm.
And as people are listening, and not to exclude anyone, but for our Black and Brown community, like, so what is some of the habits? Because we don't talk about these things, and I can remember being not really talking about finances at the table, right? Um, and not really talking about how to maybe invest or what you should save for. I grew up in a single parent household, working 2 jobs, 3 kids, trying to make things happen. But what would you say, like, how do we introduce that conversation or introduce finances in our homes? Because I think that's really important, part of our foundation for our community if we are to improve, moving forward. Like, are there any tips maybe that you can share, like how a parent can introduce that to a child, or you know
One of the things with children, it should start in the school system.
okay.
It needs to be part of the curriculum, and
Mm.
it's not at
No.
all. I mean, I don't recall it really being part of the curriculum when I was growing up, but
No.
we don't talk about it. So my goal, what we do right now, especially on my job, we're trying to get into the school systems
Mm.
and do presentations
Mm-hmm.
and try to educate it. And last year, I did this school not too far from my job, and they were juniors. They were so excited because they had questions. Well, my dad said I should apply for this credit card, and I'm trying to keep my face straight, going, I don't want you going back and tell your father I said no.
Right, but no.
But help me understand why he feels you need a credit card. Is it
Right.
about building credit? Because at some point in your life, you will need it.
Right.
I'm not living with blinders on. You will need credit, especially 19, 20-year-old. You want to be able to do some things,
Yeah.
but why are we starting out with a credit card right now? And she was like, well, I'm really not sure. I said, okay, I need you to go back and have a conversation with your father.
Right.
What is the ultimate goal here? What is he trying? Is it just about building credit? I mean, you get ready to start college.
Oof.
Do
Yeah.
you really want to have a credit card now?
Right.
You don't have a job. You're just getting ready to graduate from high school. So what is the plan?
Mm.
And so when you're talking with kids, you need to be able to sit down and help them understand the value. I mean, especially prices have gone up.
Right.
I can't necessarily go out and buy that. I don't even have one of these games, whatever the little kids play.
Like the little switch or whatever the little things are.
Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how much do they cost? And help them understand. I mean, do you have to have that? Now, can we do something a little lesser?
Right.
Maybe work toward a goal, then we can save up. Show them how they can save up for those items.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't start that conversation early, they think, Mommy and Daddy, we just pulling it off of trees, right? Because if I want it, you're going to get it.
You ain't never lied about that one, and that's true. I remember my daughter, when she was going to college, some of the universities that she wanted to go to and whatever. And so I said, look, mom and dad do okay, but we don't do that well. And we made her sit down, honestly, it made her actually go through each one and write down and break down the pricing of what it would be every semester, housing, estimate her food.
Yes.
And when she looked at it, she was like, Dad, she was like, right. She was like, what? I was like, yeah. So, the school that she ended up going to, even though it wasn't on the top of her priority list. And I told her, I said, as a parent though, to have her understand things, I said, your mother and I are going to make you take out a loan for that first semester, just so that you understand when you go out and you have to get a job and everything, what you have to do to pay it back. I mean, it wasn't, I'm going to say it was a lot, but it was enough that it made her realize, and I think, honestly, we had a conversation after she graduated and everything. Now she's grown, got a house. She came to us, she said, I appreciate you guys for really, putting that out in a way to help me understand. And I just think it's important to share because, like I said, I go back to it. I didn't have that as a child, right? So to be able to flip and grow and have enough people and influence me and have enough, I'm a reader. I'm an avid reader. I like to know not to know, but I like to know enough about everything. So to be able to apply that in my own life, is a blessing, and to see that. So I just wanted to share that, and I hope everybody really hears that. Put these things in place, and educators. Y'all need to get your stuff together and get that in school because our kids really, really need that.
Yes.
Speaking of which, there's another side or another piece to this that I want to talk about, like budgets. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a grown man. Even sticking to a budget to this day is nearly impossible. Now, my wife, on the other hand, my wife is the budget queen. many of us by being a dinner, like how do you suggest, or what's some tips or tricks of the trade, or when you sit down with a client, like how do you build out, like I said, I know everybody's different, but building out a budget and sticking to it, like how do you help? Because I know I love the part where you say, hey, if you want to go buy that toy, call me, let's talk about it. But what are some other ways that you help others stick to a budget?
Well, I think having an accountability partner is important. So in your case, honey, 2024, I don't know any one of those ones you want to about. What do you think? Well, she probably gonna say, honey, I think we need to come home and talk about that.
I know she won't be that nice, but yeah.
Okay. But I think you have to be able to, number one, trust the person that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Have to. And in order for you to trust me, you have to know me. And I don't have a problem with sharing my faults. I didn't just wake up yesterday and said, okay, you know what? I want to be out of debt. I want to help. It wasn't like that. When I tell you my mother was sick, when my mother was sick in 99, I worked up to 4 jobs at one point in time, so I can make sure I had my household taken care of and hers.
Wow. So
you have to be able to be transparent. And I don't have a problem with that. I need you to know this was a struggle for me as well. Right. And it's a continuous learning process. So when it comes to handling a budget, most people are afraid of that B word. And I tell people, I don't want you to feel I don't want you to feel like you have a ball around your neck. You still have to live life.
Yeah.
You still have to enjoy it.
Right.
I always, when I'm with my clients, I sit down and make sure, if it's a couple, we're gonna let's take care and have date night. I want you to have birthdays and anniversaries, enjoy life. You have to. If you have children, you need to be able to still do things with them, because guess what? If you don't live life, you're not going to want to continue. It's like, oh my gosh, this is a never-ending cycle. No. And there are some people who can do that, but that's not for everyone. So when we're talking about budgeting, let's sit down and see what it is we have to do and see what we have left over.
I love that.
We're going to talk about spending money. You have your own pocket money. So I joke with my clients, pocket money, you do what you want to do with it. You can burn it if you want to. We suggest that you don't, but you can, because I don't want to track that. I want you to feel free to spend how you want it with your pocket money. Everything else, we're going to manage over here.
And I like that you bring that up, but because we're going to talk about pocket money and savings. Okay. But before we get into that, I want to take a quick commercial break and shout out our sponsors who have been continuous support here of 2 Mics Up. And we're going to come back after the break, and we're going to talk about that savings, because again, that's another part I'm afraid of, is that B word and that S word, and don't put them together, y'all. I'm talking about budget and savings. All right. We'll be right back after the break. Okay. All right, everybody, we're fresh back out the break. We are talking today with Coach Money Sense, Sandra Bates. She's giving us everything, insights, not only to her personal, but to her coaching style, if you will, and how she likes to educate those in our community. And we're having a great conversation. And before the break, we had talked about, budgeting, and, now we're going to talk a little about savings, as you mentioned, because I know that's one of the hardest things for so many of us to be able to not only do, but stick to it, and do it successfully over time. And I'm one of those that always want to, like, I've learned different things on how, owning your business and what you should, how you should break down your businesses and what you should expense and operating. Is that the same type of mindset that you should use for your savings as well? Or should that be a part of that mindset, if you're just working a regular 9 to 5?
Well, I think it can be.
Okay.
One of the things and I believe in throwing all your money at debt. So I do want you to have my clients. I want them to have a emergency fund. That's important because we know those things are going to happen. Your car, your washer and dryer, all those things are going to happen. So having an emergency fund. Once we have an emergency fund established, and that's typically for a family, it's going to be $1,000. If you're single, I'm going to say $5, but sometimes we can shoot for $1,000. Once we're there, I'm going to say we don't put any more money in savings account because I want you to get rid of the debt. The sooner you get rid of the debt, the more you can drop all of that in your savings. And if you look at the math, if I have $25,000 in debt and I don't know, $15,000 in savings, do the math on that.
Yeah.
So everybody doesn't follow that philosophy, but that's mine. I make sure you have enough money over here. And if we have to spend the emergency money, we're going to pause on debt, build, and then we're going to get back to it.
Understood. I like that, just because it's true. Really, over time, Lord willing, give you time. But knocking out that debt just gives you more time to save. The more aggressive you are, if you are knocking out that debt.
I had a client, it was a couple, it was a family of 5, single income family. And the wife was homeschooling the kids. And they had like $62,000 in credit card debt.
Wow.
And owed $100,000 on their home. They did it in 2 years. That's on one income.
Wow.
We had money in savings account in the event, but then we just dumped the rest of that money on that debt. And this past summer, it took a 1-month vacation, the whole family. And none of it was on the credit card.
Now this is scary because not that it's scary, but you sound like my wife, right? Because my wife was been having this conversation, and it's not like we're in everybody has debt,
right? To some degree,
right? To some degree, and that's what she's looking at our finances like, if we both do well enough that if we just go to one salary and we do this here for the house and the bills, that other salary could just. I gotta break this down. This whole savings and budget thing. Jesus. All right.
It was funny. When I lived in Georgia, I was part of a startup credit union, and it was a church credit union. My church started a credit union, and my pastor, who was behind that whole idea, him and his wife, they both were professors, so they lived off of his salary, and they banked hers, no debt. And I'm talking professors. One was at Georgia State, and I can't remember what the other one was.
Right.
So when he started talking, this was back in 96, 97. When he brought this up, we were like, okay, if he can do it.
Right.
And it's not easy. I mean, because you want to buy things and do things, but.
See, I'm going to be like total reveal. See, I'm not a shopper per se. But when I go buy stuff, like I go buy stuff. Like my wife would give me like, one day I just woke up, I wanted a new car. Came home with a new car. And she's looking at me like, I can't say the words, but you kind of know, and you know what the conversation was after. It wasn't too nice, but so I've been that way where my wife is very good with numbers. This is what she does for a living. So she's always finding a deal and this, that, and the third. So we're on the two opposite ends of the spectrum, but that's been our conversation lately. And I think that's where we're going to go. Because the first glance at the numbers, I was like, oh, really? Like, okay. All right. Yeah. It caught my attention, but being stuck to something like that whole budget and savings thing, I've never been good with that, but we're going to give it a try. So I appreciate you sharing that, with us and our audience. But I do have to ask you, because there's the flip side too, Sandra, that we do revert back to our old mishaps and missteps. Are there things that like tips or things that you share, or do you, when you have a client that maybe has a financial fallback, to kind of help them get back in the groove? Is it kind of like reprogramming, reprocessing, or you just give it to them straight and honest?
I do my best to be straight and honest, but you also have to kind of work with people. And there's times I will say, okay, well, when you're ready to come back and let's do this thing, let's talk. But there are also times where you have someone who they're struggling. Yeah. And they need that support. Well, I'm still going to be there. I'm going to be there to say, okay, so let's regroup. Let's see where we are now and what we need to do to get you back on track. because it's easy to revert. I mean, you have commercials after commercial of things you should buy. You go any place now, and especially with prices going up, that's making a difference in people's lives. So when you are struggling with what to do and what not to do, I had one lady tell me, she said, you know what, I think I need to stop. I can't really manage. I'm not at that point where I really, and I'm not going to argue with you. If you feel you're at the point where, you know what, I think I need to back off for a minute. I need to kind of get where I am and find out what I need to do. I'm going to be here. Let's talk. Because it can be done, but once again, I'm only your coach. I can't make you. Right. You have to decide within you, okay, I want to change. I need to change. I want this particular lady, she wanted to retire in 5 years. Well, let's have a plan.
Right.
Let's work toward whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish in 5 years. But she hasn't come back because she went and bought her a candy operated convertible.
Okay.
I'm like, okay.
Priorities.
There you go.
And I'm going to put a pin in on that, right? Because I know for me and a lot of people, it's just priorities. Sometimes our priorities are misplaced. Like we started today's conversation. So many of us want to or say we have the intentions or the good intentions to do so. But we find ourselves on the other side of the track doing the total opposite. So I get it. I'm a culprit. I've been there, done that. But this has been an amazing conversation today, Sandra. I really thank you for taking time out.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Oh, look, I've been wanting to do this for the longest time, and I'm glad we finally did it. But before we close, I want to know if you could share, like, is there anything coming up, or is there some way that, our audience can connect with you, through social media, website, and really get in touch with you? Because I want everybody to really answer. This is a very important resource, and to have someone like Sandra on the show, sharing her credentials and talking about the work that she does. I really hope that you all go out and reach out to her. And if she can, I'm pretty sure she knows someone in her network that can assist you. Maybe if you're not here in the DMV area, but maybe where you are. But please reach out to Sandra and use her and her resources, because as you can see, she's tremendous and just real. And I think that's the best you can ask for. So please take a moment. What you got coming up next, and please share your social media.
Well, next on the horizon for me is retirement. My goal, right. I have a countdown. I'm at 21 months and I'm on the way out.
Oh, right.
And my plan at that point will be to just jump into my business full time. I've been dying to do this and I can't wait. So I'm looking forward to that. You can reach me on Coach Money Sense, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. My phone number is 757-655-1352. And I would love to just sit down and talk about your goals, what it is you want to do, and how can I help you achieve those goals.
Enough said right there, ladies and gentlemen. As you see, we're dropping, her social media information, where you can reach her at online. Please make sure that you reach out today, get a consultation, set up something for your future with Coach Sandra Bates. Sandra, again, thank you so much for taking time out.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you. Hopefully I see you soon. Maybe are you coming to the expo this year?
I will not be able to. My 10-year anniversary, so
never mind. Good. Look here. Never mind. Enough said right there. Happy anniversary to you and your husband. Wish you and your family all the best. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another great episode. I'm your man, Dame DNYDC. I am your humble host at 2 Mics Up. You can follow me across social media at Dame DNYDC, IG, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can catch me on LinkedIn as well. 2 Mics Up, season 5, y'all. We rolling along. 2 Mics Up is rocking now on the Mogul Global TV Network. It's available online at www.themogul.tv or on your Amazon or Roku TV devices. Make sure you come check out the show. Check me out. Check out some of my other show hosts, man. Great shows, great content. The #1 positive programming network. So make sure you check us out Monday nights, 8 p.m. And like I always do at this time, ladies and gentlemen, may you stay safe, stay blessed. Mics out. 007.